In the heart of Aetheris, the very air shimmered with the energy of magic, making it not just a realm of enchanted beings and landscapes, but a place where the laws of physics and reality could be bent and shaped. Magic was not a simple tool or a mystical force here, it was the lifeblood of the world itself. Everything in Aetheris was connected by a web of arcane energy. The mountains, the oceans, the sky all were governed by the flows of magic, which surged and pulsed like veins of power, coursing through the land and its inhabitants. Aetheris was a world where reality was not fixed, where the minds of its beings could shape their surroundings. It was a world of imagination, where gods, monsters, and heroes could all come into being. But with this power came chaos. Civilizations built on magic could rise to unimaginable heights of greatness, but they could just as easily be destroyed when those who wielded the arcane forces lost control. Entire cities had been reduced to dust in an instant when magic turned against its masters. Alden's new life in this strange world was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. He had been thrust into the role of a general in a world where battle tactics could defy the limitations of conventional strategy. He no longer led soldiers who obeyed orders. Here, his followers could manipulate the very terrain they fought upon, summon storms to rain down destruction, and weave magical shields strong enough to withstand the most powerful of blows. His every command could alter the course of a battle, but so too could his enemies. As Alden became acquainted with the intricacies of this new world, he began to realize that his role was not just to lead in battle. He was a pawn in a much grander game, one that spanned dimensions, time, and the very foundation of reality. The Archons, beings of unimaginable power and wisdom, had placed their hopes in him, but not out of charity. They had an agenda of their own, one that tied him irrevocably to the fate of Aetheris. The Archons were ancient entities, older than even the world itself. They were born from the raw chaos of creation, existing before the first stars had burned into existence. Their knowledge of the multiverse was vast, and their power was absolute. They had long maintained balance in the realms, ensuring that no one force could dominate the others. But the rise of the Dominion, a faction led by Malkar the Black, had upset this balance. Malkar was once a being of power and purpose, an Archon who had turned against his own kind in his lust for ultimate control. He had delved too deep into the forbidden magics, seeking to dominate not just Aetheris but the entire multiverse. His ambitions were boundless, and his corruption had spread across the dimensions like a dark stain, threatening to consume everything in its path. The Archons, weakened by internal strife and old rivalries, could no longer stand against him alone. That was why they had chosen Alden, an outsider from Earth, someone who was both a general and a symbol of humanity's potential for greatness. Alden's first trial, the Shattered City. Alden's first real test as a general came sooner than he expected. The Archons summoned him to a massive crystalline citadel, a place of both ancient knowledge and immense power. This citadel was called the Shattered City, a ruined metropolis that once stood as the heart of the Archons' rule in Aetheris. It had been a city of magic and wisdom, a place where powerful artifacts were forged, and where the greatest of Aetheris civilizations had once thrived. But now, the city was a shadow of its former self, the spires broken and the streets choked with overgrown vines and creeping darkness. The once glistening towers were now shards of broken crystal, their light extinguished. The ground trembled with the residual magic that had gone awry, and strange creatures roamed the ruins, twisted by dark sorcery. The task before Alden was clear. He was to reclaim the Shattered City from the forces of the Dominion, who had seized it and turned its once proud magic into a weapon of destruction. The Archons knew that if the Dominion controlled the city's core, an artifact known as the Heart of Aetheris, it would tip the balance of power permanently in their favor. The Heart of Aetheris was a living conduit of magic, a source of unimaginable power. If Malkar and his forces were able to control it, they would be able to bend all of Aetheris, and possibly the entire multiverse, to their will. Alden gathered his forces, a diverse coalition of warriors, mags, and creatures from across Aetheris. Among them were the outsmart, noble beings of light and purity who had sworn an oath to protect Aetheris from the encroaching darkness. They were led by High Marshal Lyara, a fierce and wise commander whose abilities in both magic and combat were unparalleled. There was also Brag, a hulking orc berserker who fought with the fury of 1,000 storms and wielded an enormous battle axe forged from the bones of ancient dragons. Alongside them were mags who could command the elements, creatures from the wilds who could shift into animals, and knights who had honed their skills through centuries of service. The city was heavily fortified, with the Dominion's forces entrenched in every corner. Their leader, Malkar the Black, had already begun the process of harnessing the heart of Etheirys. He knew that the true power of the city lay not just in the heart, but in the magic of its surrounding ruins. The city's foundations were built on an ancient magical grid that connected the energies of the entire realm. If Malkar could control it, no army could stand against him. Alden's strategy was as bold as it was dangerous. His first move was to break through the outer defenses with a frontal assault. The Dominion's forces, though numerous, were spread thin, believing themselves to be safe behind the city's massive gates. What they didn't expect was Alden's ability to think beyond conventional tactics. Instead of overwhelming the gates with force, Alden used his army's magical prowess to disrupt the city's magical defenses. He sent Lyara and her Aasimar warriors to disable the wards that protected the gates, while Brack and the Berserkers led a series of feigned attacks on the city's outer perimeter, distracting the Dominion forces long enough for Alden's elite strike force to breach the walls. The battle was fierce, with spells flying and swords clashing. For every inch gained, Alden's forces paid in blood. The Dominion soldiers were relentless, their corrupted magic turning the environment itself against the invaders. Alden had to move quickly, for every moment spent in the city's heart weakened the barrier between Etheirys and the Dominion's corruption. As they pressed deeper into the shattered city, Alden could feel the very air growing heavier with the malevolent magic that seeped from the Dominion's presence. Finally, after days of intense fighting, they reached the heart of Etheirys. It was housed in the central spire, a massive structure made entirely of crystal, which pulsed with an eerie, dark light. As they approached the heart, they encountered Malkar. The Archon-turned warlord stood at the top of the spire, his eyes glowing with an unnatural light. His voice was like 1,000 whispers, cold and commanding. "Foolish mortals," Malkar intoned, his voice vibrating with the power of the cosmos. "You think you can stop me? I have seen the future, General. I have seen the collapse of your world. The heart is mine now, and soon, Etheirys will bow to me." Alden stepped forward, his mind already calculating the possible outcomes of this confrontation. He knew that Malkar's power was immense, and he could not rely on brute strength alone to defeat him. This would require strategy, precision, and understanding the true nature of the heart. The final battle was a clash of wills, with Alden and Malkar locked in a battle of arcane energy. The heart of Etheirys, caught in the throes of their conflict, began to shake and crack. The ground trembled as if the entire world was on the verge of collapse. With one final surge of power, Alden unleashed the full might of his strategic mind, his knowledge of battle tactics fusing with the magic of Etheirys itself. He tore through Malkar's defenses and struck at the core of the heart, destabilizing its magic and breaking the hold the Dominion had on the city. Malkar's form began to crack and crumble, his power shattering like glass. The corrupted Archon let out a final scream as his form dissipated, leaving only the remnants of his dark magic behind. Alden's forces had won the day, but the victory came at a high cost. The shattered city was still in ruins, and though they had reclaimed the heart of Etheirys, the war was far from over. Malkar's death had not ended the Dominion's ambitions. In fact, it had only fueled their rage. A new alliance, the call for help. With the first victory behind them, Alden knew that the fight was only beginning. The Dominion had many generals, many commanders, and many powerful forces under their control. If they were to prevent the collapse of Etheirys and the multiverse itself, they would need powerful allies from across the realms. Alden's next task was clear: he had to form alliances with the most powerful factions in Etheirys, even those who were hesitant to join a war they had no stake in. The forces of light, the arcane mags, the drakes of the sky, and even the dark elves each would play a vital role in the coming conflict. But to succeed, Alden would need to convince them that the threat of the Dominion was one that no realm could face alone. The call for help had begun, and Alden Corwin would answer it. This portion expands greatly on Alden's journey, deepens his role, and sets the stage for a long and complex struggle. I can keep expanding this and focusing on specific elements, like his alliances, battles, and the growing mystery of Etheirys' true nature. Would you like to continue from here or explore specific threads in more detail?